Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Azur Lane. Now, today we are doing a relatively special episode. I'm not going to record myself just, farming 10-4 and trying to get myself a copy of Jinsu. And from that, you can probably tell that I have still yet to get myself a copy of Jinsu, especially right now with the French event going on. I'm probably going to put a halt on the farming for now. So what I want to talk about today is regarding what I have learned. As you can see that I'm at level 92 right now. What I have learned by playing Azur Lane for a year now, and especially regarding to equipment. And today I want to focus myself on the battleship guns, especially especially with the French event going on right now. We have a few equipments which include one gold destroyer gun and one gold battleship gun. So I think right now is a perfect opportunity to take some time and talk about what when you are arming your battleship, especially when it comes to guns, what you should pay attention to. So, without further ado, let's start. Now, when we look at battleship in Azur Lane, battleship are basically the snipers in this game. And if you are coming from a World of Warship background, you are probably extremely familiar with this concept. You're supposed to take out enemies with precision shots, which do high damage from a long range, and that is the most perfect example is the multiple citadel you can get when you use your battleship in World of Warship, and you get some nice hits. So if your ship is something that do high damage from long range, there are two things you need to pay attention to. The first thing is obviously the damage, and the second thing is the accuracy. So when we talk about accuracy, there are two types of guns in the battleship category. So let us go to the depot, and we can see now. I haven't let me sort the main guns. Yes, okay. So there are two types. There's actually two types of battleship guns in this game, and there are the types that fire a really concentrated shot to your enemies and do high damage, and there's another type that is the useless type, that do scatter damage, and I want to focus on that because that's the mistake I made when I first started playing this game. So as you can see, as you can see right here, the 410 millimeter mounted gun, it is basically the gold version of this thing, the 410 mounted gun. So the biggest problem with this gun is that it's not a sniper gun, and the reason why it's not a sniper gun is because the shell type. Look here, scattered. That means when the shell is coming out from the gun. When you see your battleship firing, you will see two shells coming out from your ship. But when the shell is about to hit the enemy, the shell scatter into million little pieces of little shells and then hit the ground. So that is extremely bad because that spread out your damage. You want the damage to be concentrated on that two shells instead of million little shells and then hit the target and do really little damage. All right. Well, even though when you look at this kind of gun, all right. So let me look at this really quick. Even though when you look at this, you see there's like a fire rate upgrade. I know it's because this is like plus 10, but let's find let's find a ship that is not plus 10. Let me change that and see. Okay. Now you know what I mean. Even though the gold version has a. Okay, let's just do this really quick. So let's switch this gun, and then what we do is we're gonna enhance it twice for the sake of the video. Okay, so now you see that this is the purple version of the 410 millimeter mounted gun. and you will see that the fire rate is 19 seconds, 19.5 seconds, and then let me go to the ship again, and then if we change to the gold version, which is also +8 right here, you can see that you have an increase in reload. But the biggest difference is that look at this. This is a volley and this is a scatter. So what happens is that you have two shells that coming out from your battleship that do 134 damage each. But then look here. You have two shells, but then these two shells scatter into 10 shells, and then this 10 shells does 20 damage each. This is terrible, because if you're trying to kill a boss ship quickly, you don't want to scatter your damage. You want two shells hitting that boss ship and do 134 each, and that's how you kill the boss quickly. So even though this is a gold gun, it is a gold gun, and on paper it looks like a direct upgrade from the 410mm. It is actually a piece of crap. It's trash. So don't be like me. Don't be like me and spend like spend this many upgrade plates on a useless battleship gun. This is currently the most useless battleship gun in the entire game period. Don't ever pick this up. Okay, so now, since we already mentioned the 410 mounted gun purple version, this is actually one of the most solid battleship gun in the entire game. If you are a new player and you just started playing Azur Lane and you don't have a lot of gold weapons at your disposal, this mounted gun is one of the most solid gun in the game. Period. If you equip this gun, you will never go wrong, all right? Especially a newer player and you are clearing the earlier maps in the game. Another gun that is widely available and it is also extremely solid, extremely useful is the 406. All right. So this gun has obviously this gun has higher damage but a little bit slower reload, right? +8, but they're both volley. They're both high explosive. And these the 406, the 406mm is also widely available. So feel free to equip these two purple gun on your battleship. These two purple guns are some of the best battleship guns in the entire game, like period. If you you never and these two guns are also really common, so you never need to worry about not having you never need to worry about not having access to these two guns and equipped on your battleship. Now, since we are talking about reload time, the reload time is useful in two aspects. The first aspect is you reload fast, you shoot again fast. But the second reason why you want a fast reload is because there are some battleships in this game that they have a barrage skill. So the most common, the most well-known ship is something like Hood, right? So if you let's go to Hood really quick. So let's sort Royal Navy. So Hood is over here. She's 103 level. Now, I don't have her skill maxed up. I don't have her skill maxed yet. But you can see that whenever this ship fires a salvo, she has a 66.4% chance to fire special barrage. So this is why when you're looking at a ship like this, the first thing you want to do is you want this barrage to get triggered as often as possible. Of course, the number one thing you need to do is to level up this thing to level 10. And I think at the level 10 it's like 70% or like 72%. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's higher than 70% for sure. So if you have a fast reload gun, so and allows you to use battleship ability more frequently, that means this skill right here will get triggered more frequently, and that turns into a lot more damage. Ship like Hood is really useful at clearing a large group of enemies, and she's also really useful in some boss fights because there are some maps like 9-4, 9-4 especially, where where at the end of the battle you are fighting 3 ships at once. All right, so if you can trigger her barrage as often as possible, you can kill those 3 bosses as fast as possible. And that's why for ship like Hood, you want to equip a battleship gun that do okay damage, but have an extremely high reload. Now, this gun right here is actually not the best example, because even with, as we already see, even with a +8 140mm mounted gun, you are still looking at 19 seconds. But there are some guns, battleship guns in this game, that give you really fast reloads, and this is one I'm talking about. The twin 380mm advanced main gun, which is actually the Hood gun. This is actually the gun that Hood uses back to when she was first. I think she was constructed in 1929. Never mind. When she actually become the pride of the British Navy, this is actually the gun that was put on the hood, a 380mm, and this is a faster reload. We are looking at 17.44 seconds, and if you remember, the +8 410mm gun we just looked at has 19-second reload. So if you equip a gun like this, you're going to have even faster reload. That means your barrage can get triggered even more often, right? And that's how you do more damage. So let's take a look at Bismarck really quick, because Bismarck in this game is exactly like Hood. So let's go to Iron Blood. Okay, so for Bismarck, you can see that I already maxed her out. She's my only level 120 ship. But if you look at her barrage, she has a 70% chance to fire special barrage every time the main gun fires. So that means every 16.9 seconds, right? Let's take a look again. +8. Look at this. So every 16.9 seconds, I can fire this gun, the 381mm gun, and then I have a 70% chance to trigger Bismarck barrage, even though the 410mm gun does more damage than me. But the barrage that comes with that, the 70% chance barrage that comes with that, will give me a lot higher damage potential. And that is why for a barrage battleship, there are two types of there are basically 2 types of battleship in this game: a damage type and a barrage type. The barrage type battleship is like Bismarck. She relies on her barrage to deal high damage, and that is why for a ship like Bismarck, you want to equip a gun that reloads really fast. And I think there is another gun that also, oh, I don't have it anymore. I got rid of them. After I got the 308. There's a purple version of the twin 308mm gun right here. The purple version. It also has pretty high reload, but I don't have it anymore because I have the gold version right here. Okay, so there's also there's another gun that give you really high reload, and that is the twin 380 main gun, which is historically equipped on Bismarck, and you can see that at level 10 it's at 16.5 seconds per wave, which is a little bit faster than my 308mm. A 381mm, and the reason is because, you know, this is +10. So this is another gun, if you have access to it, this is another gun that gives you really fast reload and will help you trigger your battleship's barrage abilities. Okay, so now after we finish talking about the barrage abilities, then the next thing I want to talk about is the damage focused battleships. Now the most prime example, of a damage focused battleship is, you know, the Warspite. But unfortunately, my Warspite is not unfortunately I missed the Warspite event, so my Warspite is not it's not retrofitted. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. It's not retrofitted. So where is my Warspite? Yeah, my Warspite is right here. So yeah. So when you for a ship like Warspite, she is focused on ditching out high damage from her own main gun. And that is why for Warspite, you want to equip a gun that is accurate. You want to equip a gun that does more damage. That does decent damage. So another ship that is like Warspite, however, is Jinbot, which is French. Okay. So John Bot also is also based on damage output from her own gun instead of anything that is like a barrage. And the reason why is because of this. Her first skill, increase the damage of the first volley of every salvo this ship fires by 57.6%. And if you are doing manual aim, your damage bonus increased to 57.6% instead of the normal 20%. So that's her first skill. And her second skill is, while the ship is equipped with the quadruple 380mm main gun, increases the ship main gun crit rate by 27.6%, and the main gun crit damage increased by 46.4%. So when she hits people, she's gonna do insane damage with and these two skill stacks, by the way. So she's gonna do insane damage even when I'm playing PvP. When she hits people, she can hit like, you know, over 4,000, sometimes 5,000, and in my PvE matches, she can hit like, you know, 8,000, 7,000 easily with her shots. So for her, for a ship, and also for John Bart, there's a special restriction because her second ability, Final Shot, is bounded with the quadruple 380mm main gun, which is this thing. The quadruple 380mm main gun. Now, as you can see, this gun's damage is actually higher. It's actually much higher than the British 356 quadruple main gun. So, there are some other high damage guns, like, you know, the German 380mm main gun, and and the Izumo gun, the triple 410mm gun that do 504 times 3. Instead, you can see that the fire, well, it's pretty much, it has close damage, but this is also another high damage gun that is useful for ship that mostly relies on damage that is coming out from the gun instead of barrage or other special abilities. Okay. So finally, I want to talk about some special ship in the game that we actually already mentioned one. John Bart is actually one of those special ship because her skill is actually bounded with a gun. Another ship that is like that is this girl right here, Prince George. Okay. Okay, so Whenever this is actually a universal rule in Azur Lane. Whenever you equip whenever you equip a gun with your ship, always equip your gun based on the skill, based on the perk that this ship has. So, for example, Prince George, not Prince George, God, King George. So King George the Fifth right here. Sorry for my previous mistake. So King George the Fifth here. Her first skill is, while equipped with the quadruple 356mm main gun, decrease this ship's first salvo load time by 75%, increase its main gun crit rate by 20%, decrease its spread range by 2, and improves the barrage. So basically, when you equip her with this gun, the reload time basically become like 10 seconds. Like, seriously. Because 29, we have like 29 seconds, we have 29.49 seconds, 75% deduction. That means she has 25%, right? So 29.49 times 25%, 7 seconds. Okay, 7.37 seconds. So your first barrage will only need to wait 7 seconds to reload, and this is a huge advantage in battle. Huge advantage. Especially when it comes to clearing some relatively difficult enemies, either in PvE or PvP. Well, of course, if you're talking about PvP, your first choice is always Warspite. But if you're doing PvP, you're doing PvE, and there's some battles and there's some difficult enemies, this skill right here comes in extremely handy. But as I said before, her first skill is tied with the 356mm main gun, and only with this gun can her first skill be activated. And that is why you have to equip this gun to her, because when you look at the stats of this gun, this gun is not really good because of the long reload time. Like, the quadruple 356mm main gun has the highest reload time in the entire game, period. Even the gold version has a really long reload time. So so if it is not because of some certain skill like King George over here, I would not recommend players to actually equip this gun. You are actually, if you are like, okay, so my other example here is Duke of York. So for Duke of York, my previous equipment is actually the triple 406 here, which is +8. Much faster reload. 6 seconds is a lot. 6 seconds is a lot in the heat of battle, let me tell you. And none of her skill is tied to her main gun. So her first skill is, every 20 seconds just launch a special barrage. It doesn't need, you can equip any battleship guns, and it's not triggered by your by firing a salvo. So you don't need to worry about equipping her with a quick reload gun. Just a solid battleship gun is fine. And then her second skill is a buffing skill, so it has nothing to do with her guns. And that is why I equip her with this, the triple 406, instead of the quadruple 356, because the quadruple 356 reloads way too long, and it just like crush your DPM. Okay, what else do I want to talk about regarding battleship guns? Yes, the final thing about battleship gun is that there are 3 types of battleship gun shells: AP, HE, and normal. Now, normal is the most useless. I usually don't use normal, and HE, because if you are using normal, why not just use HE? Right? HE normal guns, normal shells does not do more damage than HE, but HE has a special ability, which is to set enemy ship on fire, and the chance is pretty high as the level of your gun goes up. So there's no, if you are using normal, I don't know why, because there's just no point. You should always use HE. If and for specific battles, it is actually more convenient to equip an AP gun. Okay, so if you have a World of Warship background, you will actually understand, because AP guns do a lot of do damage. We're talking about battleship here. Battleship AP guns do more damage to armor target, right? So when you're playing World of Warship, you see that heavy cruiser, you fire your main gun, you get citadels pretty often. You see that battleship over there, you fire your main gun, you can citadel him pretty often. And in Azur Lane, it's kind of the same. So when you use a AP gun to hit highly armored targets, you crit like hell. So for my Amagi over here, I equipped it the 380mm main gun, and every day, and then every day I do that special mission, daily special mission, which is this tactical training, and I go into shelling. When she hits those enemies, she does 11k per volley. 11k is insane. Because she's using AP and because she's using AP shells, and the final boss fight is a battle cruiser, and battle cruiser is considered as a heavily armored target in Azur Lane, just like what they are in World of Warship. So when you hit those people with AP shells for your battleship guns, it does great damage. However, there's a drawback with your AP shells, is that when you use that AP shell to hit light armor targets, it over-penetrates. The mechanic is exactly like World of Warship. If you use your battleship AP gun in World of Warship and you fire your AP shells at those destroyers, it's a little bit different because AP shell in World of Warship works pretty well against light cruisers as well, but not in Azur Lane. In Azur Lane, both the destroyers and light cruisers, most of the light cruisers, they are lightly armored. So what happened is you use your AP shell and you hit them, and then you will see that the number that pop up from the ship is gray. That means your shell is not doing the full damage as it could. That means it's an over penetration. So that is why when you are equipping a battleship gun that has AP shells, you need to be mission specific, right? Like when I'm doing my tactical training and I want to get into this shelling thing. When I wanted to get into the shelling, both of my ship over here, Amagi and Izumo, they are both equipped with AP guns, because when I get to that boss fight, I want to get rid of her quickly, the battle cruiser quickly. So Izumo over here, she can do like 8,000 per volley, and Amagi over here on average can do 11k per volley. So like I can just delete that final boss. Now, but however, if you are just like farming, or you know that this map you are about to play, the final boss is not a heavily armored target. For example, 9-4. So let's just open 9-4 really quickly. We're definitely not gonna start a game with 9-4, but okay. So you can see that here at 9-4, you have Helena over here. She is I think she's a destroyer. Okay, I'm pretty sure I have her. Ah, there she is. Oh, she's not. Okay. Well, somehow the map is called Helena, but the ship you get from the drop is Nisuki. So you can see that Nisuki is a destroyer, and when you fight her, she will have like two of her buddies, rotating around her. So it's actually, the final boss fight, you're fighting 3 ships instead of 1 ship, and the other 2 ships were also destroyers. I don't remember who they are anymore because it has been a while since I since I was farming 9-4. Never mind. But however, when I was first farming 9-4, I had I think I had Amagi in my fleet once. I think I had Amagi in my fleet once when I was farming 9-4, and then I came to the boss fight, and you know, Nizuki came out, and when I fired my main gun at her, I was doing like 300 something damage per shot because of over penetration. And I was like, what is going on? You know, I was like, what is going on? And then I went online, did some research, and I find out that Nizuki is actually a destroyer. So and then I was like, oh, okay, that's why I was only doing 300 to 400 damage per shot, because she's lightly armored, as you can see here, and then with a battleship AP gun, a battleship gun with AP shells, they over penetrate all the time. So that is why if you're fighting a boss like her, you need HE. You need HE guns. Or guns that fires HE shells. So, what? Yeah. So any guns like, you know, the 380mm main gun, which is high explosive, the quadruple 356, which is also high explosive. You need these guns to do full damage to light armor targets. Now, the interesting thing about HE shells in Azur Lane is that, unlike World of Warship, you know, if you fire your HE shells at some heavily armored target, I mean, you have to aim relatively carefully. You usually go for the superstructures. You usually go for the superstructures above the ship, instead of aiming at the bow. You know, that is why when you see a player playing World of Warship and they're playing their heavy cruisers or light cruisers, they usually aim up a little bit so their shells can hit the superstructure on top of the ship to do the full damage of those HE shells. But in Azur Lane, there's no mechanism like that. So, but the funny thing is, even you use HE guns, you use the battleship guns that fire HE, you do the full damage. You do the full damage, but it won't have the damage potential as firing a battleship gun with AP shells on a battleship. So you usually won't see like crazy high damage coming out from your HE shell battleship guns. Right, so for my Jean Bot, you know, John Bot, the ship we just talked about, when she hits an enemy, even with her skills, one at level 9 and the other one at level 8, she's doing like, you know, with some lucky shots she can do like 7,000, but if she's But after the first volley, because that critical strike, spirit of the heart of pirate, the heart of a pirate, I think that's what it's called. A pirate's soul. Okay. Yeah, the first volley. So only the first volley will do like 57% more damage. So after the first volley, what you see is, you know, the damage of the shells fall back to normal, which is usually around like 3,000. You know, 3,000 when it hit the enemy. Unlike the guns that Amagi has, you know, on average with those AP shells, she does over 10k. So yeah, so that's all I want. That's kind of all I want. That's basically what I want to talk about today. But if you're a new player and you don't have a lot of relatively new player, my bad. If you're a relatively new player, or you have started the game, you have started the game for some time, you understand a lot of the basics, but you don't have a lot of gold equipment at your disposal, especially when it comes to battleship guns. just remember this, the 410mm mounted gun, and this, the 406. When you haven't got a lot of equipment in your inventory, remember to use these two guns for your battleships. For your battleships, these two are always solid choices. And see, as if you have gold battleship guns already, you know, I mean, personally speaking, my favorite, you already know what is my favorite battleship gun. My favorite gold battleship gun is actually the this is my favorite gold battleship gun. Twin 308mm advanced main gun. Favorite. Because for the most part when I play PvE or PvP, because you know, as you already know, my war spike is not retrofitted. So I usually put, you know, Nagato into my fleet, and Nagato also have a crazy barrage. It's basically a screen wipe, and you want Nagato to trigger her barrage as often as possible. So you equip Nagato with this gun with a really fast reload, and you can get her to trigger that barrage more often. Yeah. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about today, and yeah, and as you can see, I don't have as you can see, my video is not fancy. I don't have crazy graphs. I don't have crazy maps. I don't have crazy graphs. I don't have, you know, memes popping out left and right. It is just that my personal experience after playing Azur Lane for almost 1 year now. And at level 91, I just want to share with you guys what I have learned from my experience and the mistakes I had made. That stupid gold 140mm gun is a trap. It's a trap, guys. Don't put any money or any time into that piece of trash. Okay? But if you guys have any comments, feedbacks, suggestions, if you are some high level players that you're like, hey, I'm like, hey, there's something that this guy got it wrong, feel free to correct me, because actually I'm still learning. At level 92, personally speaking, I'm actually still watching a lot of the, you know, how-to videos regarding to Azur Lane. So if you are one of those high level players and you're willing to give me some advice, most appreciated. Like, seriously, most appreciated. And yeah, with that, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I will see you guys next time. Sorry for the relatively long video.